Lyon, France's third largest city, and located on a very central spot within France. From here you find many international trains and will be traveling on board of a high-speed train that is heading for Brussels in Belgium. The capacity on this train is not that great to be honest, but there is a great trick you can use to find more capacity. This is mainly why I have this video. I'll tell you everything about that in this video. From Lyon in France to Brussels in Belgium. Join me on this high-speed train from Lyon Part Dieu here in France, where you find lots of international trains as well to France, to Italy, Switzerland and also to Spain. We'll be heading to Brussels in Belgium today. I'll tell you all about this in the video, but for now let's get this video on the track and let's roll the intro. Before we start with this video, let's take a closer look at the route map. We'll be traveling from Lyon Part Dieu to Marne-la-Vallée, what is basically the Disneyland resort near Paris. From there on, we move on to Charles de Gaulle Airport, also at the outskirts of Paris. After that, we move to Lille Europe, what is a high-speed railway station only in the city of Lille, and we terminate at the railway station of Brussels in Belgium. This here is a line map of the TGV inOui high-speed trains between Brussels and France. Apart from that, you find lots of Eurostar trains as well, operating between Brussels and France, and some of them to Brussels and the United Kingdom. Those trains are much more common from and to Brussels, at least to Paris. But we won't be taking a train along that route, but on a longer journey. Basically, there's only one train per day that exactly operates on the route that we'll be taking today between Brussels and Lyon. All the other trains do start or terminate at Marseille, Perpignan or Montpellier. Also, the train that we'll be taking today started in Marseille. On the Brussels to Marne-la-Vallée route, you might also find some Eurostar trains, although it's not a lot and those trains do start or end in Amsterdam. These trains are in general pretty popular, and the capacity is not always that great. However, there is a great trick how you can find more capacity and also lower your ticket price. I will tell you that in this video. Before we really start with this video, let's take a closer look on the environmental impact if you're traveling on this route by train, car or plane. And the train is the absolutely winner, also when it comes to travel time and especially the environmental impacts. If you compare the train in terms of environmental impact, if you take the plane as a standard, the train only pollutes 0.63% compared to the plane. However, if you take the train as a standard, the plane is 15,772.73% more polluting. Sometimes I even get these comments like climate change is not real. Well, actually, I think you have to educate yourself, but even then, if you think that climate change is not real, just look at the amount of resources that are needed. The energy resources are not unlimited either. Anyway, I arrived in Lyon Part Dieu with a regional train I took from Geneva in Switzerland. There will be another trip report about that one soon. Lyon Part Dieu isn't what I would say a nice railway station at all. However, thank goodness there's a lot of refurbishment going on around and in the railway station, so things are changing for the good. And also, for the same reason, doing a proper railway station review is gonna be very challenging. Things are changing here pretty fast in an impressive and good way. At the front of the railway station you will find access to the underground and there are some tram stops as well. And over here also the biggest construction works took place, at least at the moment I was here. This used to be basically one hall where you find lots of access to the platforms of all important high-speed railway stations in France. I honestly disliked this one most. And they're changing this in a very nice way actually. So honestly, I feel like it wouldn't do justice to do a real station review for this railway station at this very moment until it's finished. And I think it won't take that long before the railway station is finished and I will make a trip report where I feature more of this new railway station. Also, last time when I featured this railway station, what is about a year ago, there were some newer parts already, but even compared with that situation, that video is already out of date. So just let me say it like this. Directions have been marked pretty okay. At the front and at the back of the railway station you will find tram and bus stops, where the bus stop for semi-long distance buses can be found at the back of the railway station as well. And for a better station review, I'll definitely be back here one day. Today my train departed at 2 o'clock from Lyon Part Dieu to Brussels Midi, what's basically the same railway station of Brussels Zuid. As you can see, there are 2 trains departing at the same time. And maybe you noticed something else as well, that the departure display wasn't very chronological. Anyway, like pretty often in France, the platform number pops up relatively last minute, and that was also happening over here. And as soon as it pops up, people who need to go from that platform on these trains will move all into the same direction. The composition screen actually popped up pretty last minute before departure, what was a bit annoying because it was rather busy and one part of the train was fully booked. Anyway, at the platform you find dedicated composition screens, and also the screens at the platform that will host the route information for the specific train will host the composition. I mean, in general these screens are clear, and in my general experience is that the composition won't show up just a couple of minutes before departure. But that was happening here, what was a little bit chaotic. Anyway, this here is the train coming in. And this train will take me to Lille. Yes, you heard me right, I won't take this train all the way to Brussels, because this part of the train will not go to Brussels. This train consists of 2 train sets, and the last train set, so the single deck train set that's coming in over here, is heading for Brussels. However, I don't think you have to study rocket science to realize that the capacity on the single deck train is way lower than on the double deck train set. And these trains book out pretty often actually. Also, these trains do have 2 different train numbers, what also means that the prices that are based on demand might be different for each train. I was traveling with the use of Interrail. If you are a non-European, Eurail is basically the same. And I couldn't make a reservation anymore for the entire route. This is in general a thing when it comes to this, because when it comes to Interrail and Euro reservations, there's only a limited amount of reservations you can make for the entire route. So splitting your ticket is pretty often the best thing you can do as well. And because these trains do run as one train, at least until the railway station of Lille Europe if you're traveling from France, or if you're traveling from Brussels from the railway station of Lille Europe, you don't have to worry about missing your connection. Actually, quite some people made the change from this train set to the other train set at the railway station of Lille Europe. I'm happy to see that people know about these tricks. I hope you like this video so far, or that it's a helpful video to you. If so, please give me a thumbs up, I really appreciate that. Questions, feedback, comments, or well, if you just want to say hello, feel free to leave a comment. This is all improving the algorithm of YouTube, so this video might be suggested a bit more often to other people. And if you like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, the main focus for this channel is long distance and or international traveling, to show you what it's like to travel in a more sustainable way of transportation. I mean, crossing a border is, in general, when it comes to tickets and so, more complicated than it should be. So this is what I'm trying to explain in these videos. But if you'd like to see more, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. For now, we just continue with this video. If you are traveling with Interrail or Euro, by the way, the best website to make your reservations for these trains is the website of Rail Europe. For individual train tickets, I personally really prefer Trainline. They also charge a little bit less extra than Rail Europe, by the way. It is possible to book tickets for the entire route, but like I already mentioned, because the capacity on board of these trains, and because of these trains that will be combined at the railway station of Lille Europe, It might also be very interesting to check if you can split up your ticket at the railway station of Lille, Europe, and to see what this does with the price for the tickets. However, take into account you might need to change seats, and you also might need to swap for the train sets. So if it's just a small difference, I really prefer to go for one ticket and also recommend you to do that. Also, this creates more capacity because we have a less kind of Tetris game going on with the seats aboard of these trains. And also, if you just want to play safe, because if you split your ticket, you might easily make a mistake in, for example, the date. It's also better to just book one train ticket for the entire journey. But if it's not there or the price difference is very big, then just split it at Lille Europe railway station. And the train I show you in this video is not the newest train. From 2026, these trains will also be launched, and these trains are technically also capable to operate along this route into Belgium. So honestly, I don't know how long you can still expect these single-deck trains. However, in this video we will just review the single-deck TGV inOui Réseau trains. They do have a capacity of around 377 seats and do have two comfort categories or classes, first and second class. Tickets do always come including a seat reservation. For the same reason, what facilities can be found where has not been marked that clear at the side of the train, apart from the classes, 1 for first class and 2 for second class. Also, the dining car has been marked crystal clear. Right next to all the entrance doors, there are small digital screens that will host some more route information, like the train number, the final destination and the carriage number. I recorded this part of the video about a year ago or so, when I made the journey on exactly these same trains to the south of France. Back then I had the opportunity to film in an empty train, what is really nice. So let me give you a train review. As you can see, this display will host the route information like bases and stops along the way, the train number and the carriage number. I will walk from one side of the train to the other side, and this here is a small section of second class, basically in an area where you will find mainly first class. This is also the accessible area in first class, and let it be no surprise that close to the accessible area you will also find the bigger accessible toilets. If you're traveling with a little toddler or baby and you need to change the diapers, you can do that as well over here. It's quite sturdy, it's not super big, but it's okay. Also, for a bigger accessible toilet, I honestly can't compare this because I don't have any difficulties by walking and I'm not in a wheelchair, but I don't think these are the biggest toilets, to be honest. The accessible area in first class is obviously right next to here, where there's some more space, and if you are traveling in a wheelchair, they can create some extra space here as well. First class comes like in most European trains in a 2x1 configuration, so 2 seats on one side of the aisle and 1 seat at the other side. For luggage you obviously find the overhead luggage racks. There are very tiny luggage racks right below that for smaller items. But don't miss out on the backends between the seats for luggage, and that doesn't only count for this train, but for trains in general. Most seats do come in an airline style composition, what I personally like most. However, you do find some bay seats as well, so seats facing each other. For the bay seats, there is a bigger table between the seats, and also between the seats you find a small litter bin. Reading lights are integrated within the seats, although I had some difficulties by finding the right button. But here it is, let it shine baby. Let's be honest, these are not the newest trains, but they're pretty fine. However, despite the fact that these are not the newest trains, power sockets are located in the tables for the seats facing each other. And because these are not the newest trains, the amount of power sockets is not that high. Seat numbers can be found at these kind of displays at the seats. And they are dynamic, so they can change the number, so if you book your train ticket, you can know more or less what seat will always be facing forward. However, this train changes direction at the railway station of Lille Europe, so it doesn't really work for this route. For the other airline style seats, the power sockets are a little bit hidden. And you do find a small footrest, a cup holder and a small but sturdy fold-out table in the seat in front of you. At the side there's a very small litter bin as well. And also these seats can be reclined electric. I am pretty tall, I'm around 1 meter 90. I'm not telling my exact length for privacy reasons, but the amount of legroom is pretty okay, to be honest. Icons do indicate what facilities can be found where, like for example the toilet with the baby diaper changing facility I showed you earlier on. Or the dining car that has been mentioned with a cocktail glass. There's a small pantry in first class as well that's not really being used. Honestly, if they would create some spare seats or some extra luggage room over here, that would be great. Over here there is some extra luggage room though, as you can see over here. And between the carriages at the vestibules there are some folding seats as well. However, those areas are not air conditioned. This is the other first class carriage that's basically the same as the carriage I showed you earlier on, although you have some more seats and there's no accessible area over here. What you will find here is some extra space for luggage though. But don't use this space between the back of this seat, because otherwise you will block the door for opening. At these vestibules there is some more space for luggage, and let's review the regular toilets you will find most on board of these trains. I mean, they're pretty fine, nothing special. What is a fact though, these trains do show their age in a bit if you look for example at the floor over here. Now let's move on to the next carriage. Some more luggage room as you can see here at the vestibules. Pretty nice, but I really like to keep an eye on my luggage. Also, at the moment you move through the train before you go to the open compartments, you will find a small display that's basically the same display as at the side of the train near the entrance doors. That will host the carriage number, the train number, the final destination and some stops along the way. Separating the first class from the second class is the dining car. To be honest, it's not that impressive, but it's nice that it's there. German dining cars are for example way nicer than the dining cars you can find on French trains. But it's still a nice place to go to, especially along a longer railway journey. And these dining cars can be relatively busy. Close to the dining car area there are some more seats, standard seats in the second class. There's some extra space for luggage over here as well. And also right next to this area over here, what are the only solo seats in second class, you will find the area for staff. It feels more like a mini private compartment, to be honest. Well, I don't say that this might not be used for famous people traveling for example, who want to have some more privacy. This here is another area for staff, basically for the train manager, with a small desk as well. Now let's move on to the area where most people on board of these trains will travel if they are traveling on board of these trains. And this is the second or standard class, just how you want to mention it. Once again at the vestibules lots of space for luggage. And this here is the second class. What is a good product if you ask me? There are some more areas for luggage between the seats as you can see over here. What's really nice, because more people will be squeezed in these areas over here, so you need more extra space for luggage. I mean, these are long distance trains after all. Now let's review the bay seats, so seats facing each other. There's a sturdy table between the seats as well, and basically this is pretty similar to what I showed you in first class, however it's less spacious. There's a small litter bin, and all seats do have a built-in reading light as well. You can recline the seats manually this time, so it doesn't go electric, with a handle you find under the seats. And seat numbers can be found obviously at the same spot as what I showed you earlier on in first class, so this right above the reading lights I should say. Just like in first class, power sockets are located within these tables. Most seats do come in an airline style or long distance bus seat composition, so let's review those seats. The amount of legroom is okay. I mean, once again, I'm a very tall boy. There is a footrest, a cup holder and a quite sturdy fold-out table. If I fully recline these seats, what's really not a lot of amount of reclinement by the way, I still have more than enough legroom, and once again I'm a pretty tall boy. There's one power socket per 2 seats over here. What's once again also not that much compared to much more newer TGV inOui trains, where you find sometimes even more than one power socket per seat. Within standard class, there is another baby diaper change facility. I'll show you in a bit, the directions are this way. And you find some different zones, for example this area over here. What is still in an open compartment but separated from the rest of the train, and this is meant for traveling with very young kids. I mean, if you're traveling with young kids, I think it's nice to not have these big tables in between, so there's more space to move. And if you want a table, you find a very small table at the side, but you can also pop this bigger table out. And you find some pattern for board games you can play on these tables as well, to make the journey even more fun, and especially if you're traveling with kids. At the vestibules over here, once again, like everywhere, you find some more folding seats, but this here is a dynamic area that can be used for spare seats and also for luggage. I mean, the tickets for these trains do come including a seat reservation, and if you missed your connection, you might end up in a train without a seat reservation, so therefore these spare seats are meant for those passengers. As soon-to-be father, I like this area a lot. There's a special area for changing the diapers of your baby, and you can also wash things over here, and there's a small seat. It's not within the toilet though, the toilets are opposite from here. Also for mothers who don't like to breastfeed in public, they can use this space, but honestly I think breastfeeding is the most natural thing on earth. But unfortunately, some women are not comfortable by doing this in public, even though it's in general not very open. Because us men, we are sexualizing this too much, what's really a pity. Now let's move on to the rest of the train. And for the rest, I basically mean only the standard or second class, just how you want to mention it. And for this, you will only find the open compartments with some more areas at the vestibules where you can take a seat and for luggage. Also, toilets are located between the carriages pretty much all over the train. Well, the areas I like least on board of these trains are actually the areas at the total front and the back of the train that are in second class only, and that are these areas over here. And the reason why I don't really like this is because of these windows over here. It's really hard to look outside from here on. And for the rest, it's basically the same as what I showed you earlier on. These trains have been built between 1992 and 1994. Where the double-deck trains that are connected to these trains have been built in 1995. Once again, I will link a video to a video where I explain more about these double-deck trains in the description of this video. What's one of my earlier videos, by the way. And I love to see that these double-deck trains will head into Belgium. Although the regular TGV duplex trains are not capable to operate along the Belgian electricity, while the single-deck trains are able to do that, and also the TGV Euro duplex trains are able to operate in Belgium. However, like I already mentioned, there will be new trains ordered soon, and that are these specific trains, the TGV M. These trains do offer a higher capacity, can go faster, and are much lighter. And even though weight for trains plays a less big role compared to energy usage as if you're traveling, for example, on board of a plane or in a car, weight is still a big factor on how much energy a train is consuming. And because these trains are much lighter, they will also use way less electricity. And the aerodynamics are also slightly better. I expect that the trains from and through Brussels might be replaced in the next couple of years with these trains as well, what is absolutely needed because we need more capacity on the line from and to Brussels. However, I expect to see these trains first on the routes domestically within France, because not all trains are capable to operate on the routes from and to Belgium and also on the routes from and to Germany. These are optional extras in the power system that need to be created. And since it has been not confirmed on what routes these new trains will operate exactly, at this very moment of recording, what is the end of 2025, And I still think for 2026, for the entire year, you can expect the older trains I showed you in this video. And what is a fact? We need more capacity on the trains from Belgium to France. This also counts for the Eurostar trains, where quite a lot of the Eurostar trains do start their service in Germany or the Netherlands. I mean, they're always fully booked. After leaving Lyon, the train is slowly making its way out to the city towards the high-speed line. Even though you will also find the high-speed line around the city, but that doesn't serve the main stations. However, it doesn't take long before we are on the high-speed line and we are reaching speeds up to 300 km per hour. One last thing I forgot to mention earlier on, free Wi-Fi is available. This is not just an internet connection, but it also links your mobile device to an onboard entertainment system where you find lots of magazines, newspapers and movies, and of course route information. But for now I'll just show you some views I had from this train along the high-speed line between Lyon Part Dieu and Brussels South. Here, the train is arriving at the railway station of Brussels South or Brussels Midi. And I forgot to do the outro, so I would just use a voice-over for this. I hope you liked this video and or this has been helpful to you. If so, please give me a thumbs up, I really appreciate that. If you have some questions, feedback, comments, or even if you just want to say hello, feel free to leave a comment. And if you'd like to see more trip reports, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. The main focus for this channel is long distance and or international traveling on the more sustainable way of transportation. And in the description of this video you find a link to a map where you find all videos as well, but then on a map. See you on the next video.